but that is green. You're starting to see some green on the outside. Find the place it starts turning green, and then you're good. I've had so many people say my figs died during the freeze. The freeze got them all. They're gone, they're dead. I'm gonna cut them back to the ground. I'm tired of messing with them. Don't cut them back to the ground. Don't do it. My figs got bit by the freeze too. About mid-March, they were starting to leaf out, and I thought it was gonna be a banner year, and all of a sudden the freeze hit, and I can't show you a lot of it because it's covered up with the vegetation now, but there's a good example of dieback. All those were just pretty green leaves like that, and then the freeze came and did that, and then the freeze came and did that. But now look at it. Now look at it. Don't cut yours back. In fact, I've got all this new growth down here in the middle. All that is new, brand new, coming up from the roots. Brand new coming up from the roots. Brand new, all that in there. Even as tacky as it is in there with all the weeds that are in the middle of the plant that have died off. And then look at all the new growth. So it is quite possible that your fig tree is just fine. Now, will every limb come back? No, that one's not going to. And I'm gonna show you how to prune and how to make sure you're pruning correctly in just a second. But that limb's probably not gonna come back. Might, but probably not. That limb is probably not going to come back right next to it. Got 2 or 3 limbs. There's a couple in the middle that have already, the bark is starting to peel off. Obviously they're dead. That one there, dead. Spongy, nasty, dead. Let me show you what I do. First of all, what I don't do. Don't be hasty. I've told these folks that have commented and asked me about it, I said, just be patient. Be patient. They will, they may not, it may be dead. Depends on where you are. If you're way up north, you got a real hard freeze, and you've got a variety that is susceptible to freeze damage more than others. Not quite as hardy as other figs. There are some hardier figs, one I think called Chicago, that is supposed to be better or okay for northern climates, but in the south, our figs typically will come back from the roots, even if all this died, even if there was nothing up here, if there was no canopy, none of this came back, they would still be coming back from the roots, okay? All that would still be coming up. I probably wouldn't get any figs this year because figs are gonna mainly make certain varieties on what's called the Breba crop, the first crop, the initial crop from last year's limbs, last year's growth. But you would still get a good representation from the roots coming up for next year. All of these came up last year, so I should get a good fig crop from these, from this growth, as well as from the growth on that fig tree there. That is a Celeste. The one we were just looking at is a brown turkey. Same thing going on here. A lot of growth from the middle, a lot of growth from the roots. That is a growth coming up straight from the roots. This one's not quite as prolific coming up from the roots as the brown turkey is, but not dadgum bad. Now, see, normally I would come in here and I'd say, well, just cut that off. That's just deader than a hammer. Until you look up there. It's not so dead up there, is it? Don't cut it off just willy-nilly. Now, let me show you the way I prune so I know I'm not cutting off anything that's alive and viable and gonna produce some figs for me. Let me show you what I'm talking about. But what I will do is take a limb like this. Now, just looking at that and feeling of it, this one's pretty much dead, but it's a good example for me to talk to you about and show you. And what I'll do is start close to the top and prune, and then look at it. That is completely dead, dead tissue. I'll go down another 6 or 8 inches or a foot, go down again, and everything I'm seeing is dead tissue, dead limbs, completely, utterly dead. There's Nothing there that's viable. When you get to something that's alive, and I'll show you that just a second, you will, it'll be obvious, you'll know it. So that's dead tissues, gone. You might as well prune that out. Prune it out now, you prune it out at the end of the season, but you might as well prune it out. So here's a different case. This limb is dead up here, but it's alive right about there. So what I'll do on something like this, I'll come in here, because it could still possibly start blooming up in here. Don't want to lose that if that's going to happen. So I'll start up here about a foot maybe from the top. Look at it. That's dead. And that white center there is that latex that's in it, sap if you want to call it that. I'll come down, cut another piece. Same thing, just dead tissue. That's going to be dead, kind of off to the side. Dead tissue there, dead tissue here. Okay, but we're getting real close to where we're going to start having live tissue. We know that because we see growth. But where does the live tissue start? Well, let's take it off another 6 inches or so and look at it. Still brown, but that's going to be as close as I'm going to cut that. I don't know whether you can see that. I've got about an inch of material here before it gets to a viable limb that is fruiting out nicely. Now I can also come in here and cut that little limb off and prune that off. You know, again, for disease sake, maybe it's a good thing to prune these limbs off. But if you don't, personally, I don't think it's a big deal. I do it just because I like the way it looks, and more so than for disease. Now here are those two limbs I showed you earlier, right next to each other. Both of them, looks to me like, are completely dead all the way down. So I'm gonna come down about 2 feet from the top. Try that, same thing, dead. Come down, dead. I'm gonna go down another 1.5 feet, dead. I'm not expecting to see any life, so that's why I don't mind chewing on that pretty hard and pretty quick. And there again, just as dead as it can be. No life, no green. Same with this. Come on down, down, down. Now right in here, we have some growth. It looks like that growth is on this limb. It's either that or it's coming from the bottom. No, it's on this limb right here. So I'm gonna come down, take most of that off, but I'm gonna leave the part that's growing. That's why I say, come on down your limb. If you see green, then stop. Now I don't know how well you can see that. Let's see if I can get a better focus. But that is green. You're starting to see some green on the outside. That's where you stop. When you start seeing green like that, then you stop, because everything down from that, everything toward the ground, closer to the ground, from this point is viable and will produce. Find the place it starts turning green, and then you're good. Don't do it. Don't cut yours back until you absolutely, positively know for sure they are dead. A month or two from now, if they're not coming out, yeah, they're probably gone. But, but they should be coming out now in the south. They should be coming out soon, if not now, soon, up north. I hope that helped you a little bit. I hope that stopped you from doing something drastic. Don't do it. All right, we're gone.